And here we go. Another installment of Lockdown Movie Reviews. I've got a few of them that I've been watching here and a couple of show reels that I've finished up. Um, just to bring in this one here. This one is over the 13 Legendary Weapons of China. Under the 13 Legendary Weapons of China, I have to say, without a doubt, it's probably one of my top favorite Shaw Brothers movies. Simply because I will always have, no matter what anyone says, that childhood desire to just constantly watch it, learn, and be totally kept up and with it for everything with it. I mean, I just cannot look away from certain Shaw Brothers movies simply because of all the martial artists, techniques, lore, weapons, everything. Even if it's slowed down to where each single one you have to pause, and therefore they said that it wasn't going to teach anybody how to really do the martial arts, as you had to pause and wait for the sound of the wind, the hit, or anything else. And people go on about USA Batman. They can't understand why they put in the big flash, boom, zonk, whatever. In a way, it's not much different. And I just have to say, I love it to death. It is fun. The actors in it play different parts back and forth. Many of the Shaw Brothers movies are based in partial fact about certain real life events, techniques, legends, everything else that comes around them. I remember when I first saw the movie that me and my cousin Rusty would go out and try and make our own weapons and everything. And we would go through everything doing it to each other. It was fun. It was what we all wanted to do. It was probably one of the best times of our lives, honestly. Um, it's just a wonderful little piece of childhood that's always going to be there. And people are going to be like, you don't care about war or anything else now. We've, thoroughly put you through the peace situation with me and everything with my cousins because I've been iced and everything. And I don't really like anything that has to do with that. And it's like, no, it's absolutely the greatest thing out there. I can't wait to get back into the gym. Can't wait to go out and take my own hook swords out back every time that I watch it. Now, going on for the cinematography, everything else, with how the main character is a monk who understood that while they may have achieved everything with bladed weapons, been able to let them actually hit his skin, his chest, even his disciples or students, he disbanded his own group out there because he didn't want them all to be killed, because they said that they were supposed to find a way to become impervious to the gun of the West. And this is an actual true situation that was brought up. There was numerous things put out by the emperor, everyone else, to find a sect of martial arts that could, through whatever powers it could, find a resistance to the Western gun before the Opium Wars and everything else. And this is kind of mirroring it in its chronologicalness off of it. The main character in question, he had a brother who was in charge of a sect. He had another brother who was sent after him, and his niece and nephew. Those that were to be sent after him had to kill themselves. And in a way, it was a way of doing away with the entire bloodline of those that knew the secret of teaching people to be impervious to hand-wielded bladed objects. There was a con man that did show up in it that used a lot of fake trickery and a lot of situations with basically saying that they were able to use things similar to a voodoo doll, which is a pressure point doll that you supposedly submit yourself to, and you can never not be the person's disciple. You have to give them something of yourself. Generally, it's they prick some part of the body that is one of the 9 deadly places on it, and they take blood from it, and put it on all the pressure points of the voodoo doll, and that's your individual voodoo doll. It's a little different from Africa, but it's similar to what it is. The main character hides out as a woodcutter. He's hiding all of his legendary weapons from China because no one's allowed to have those underneath the imperial decree, because everyone's going to be peaceful and the Western gun will not come there since it is something used in conquest and violence. And this is another edict that was made by one of the emperors long ago. His brother finds him. His brother disappears. Says that he'll take care of it. And he takes his niece and nephew and keeps them with him. And their uncle, I guess they'd be his grandniece and nephew, and his nephew comes. They save him. He ends up having to fight him, and he uses all types of contraptions, trickery, everything at the maximum level right before a gun could be used. And then, since he failed, he wanted to burn himself. He was left deaf from the fight and everything, and he saved his life, and he went off in shame. The main character did, to his oldest nephew, the uncle of his other 2 family members. They convinced him to get his strength back up. He nursed one of them back to health from sickness and everything. They figured out who he was and asked him to go and stop whoever gave the order for everything, so they didn't have to kill themselves or him, and could live without dishonor. So he had to go and fight his brother, his last remaining brother. His other brother disappeared, and nothing could come of it. With that, he fought him with each one of the different deadly weapons of China at the end in a grand duel. And his brother, the one that had ordered everything to be done to be gotten rid of, some people in it could argue that he was really sent there to make sure that China would be easier conquested later by an inside agent, was left at the end kneeling and died of shame because his brother wouldn't defeat him, even though he was broken to the point he could no longer fight. And it was seen that the main character was right. So they continued on their lives and had happily ever after. As the other, not being able to die by any form of battle, and due to his actions of destroying all of his disciples and everyone else, out there shooting them, and then seeing how long it would take for them to die. Some even standing on their feet, offering themselves up after showing that they could not be killed by machetes, swords, or even throwing stars. They could say he had no disciples to believe in him or anything else, and that his power was totally gone. And in and of that, one can say he died from shame. In a way, it's Eastern cinema. It's the masterpiece that is known of it. And even though it's an old movie, I think it still holds to the great classic situation that is known of as the Shaw Brothers and Eastern legendary movies. It's Colin Dawson with Lockdown Movies Reviews. Like and subscribe.